Welcome to the Top 10 Gardener with Master Gardener Ken Lain. Gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and top 10 advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome your garden host, Ken Lain.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lain, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona. We are in the peak of it. Things are going crazy. In fact, I'm starting to adjust for my spring bloomers. They've been blooming like crazy for 2 months straight, solid. I'm starting to do a bit of summer pruning. So my euphorbias, rainbow ascot, there's several euphorbias. You're talking about gopher plant or gopher spurge. That's actually a euphorbia. It's sort of like a ground cover. It depends on the variety. I can't say that. So your succulents, it's like a cactus, holds a lot of moisture in its structure and in its roots. They've got real thick, heavy roots. They're very drought hardy. Animals don't eat them. They're kind of one of my favorite perennials out in the yard. Well, they've been in bloom, and now the blooms are starting to fade. Sage, I've had meadow sage. It's a beautiful wildflower. I've got great big patches of it. And the purple flowers are now just dead, spent spires on top of the foliage. I'm pruning those back. Not right to the ground, just the flower tips I'm taking off. What else? Jupiter's beard. I'm taking that one back. So the flower has been blooming like crazy. Had these bright pink flowers hovering above this kind of knee-high foliage. It's been stunning. There's nothing like it. Super drought hardy. Spreads through the yard. It's a great plant. But now it's going out of bloom. There are just a very few spent pink flowers left. I went, okay, that's it. We're gonna force you to bloom again. And so I took my hedge shears and I just kind of sheared off just the flower, not the whole plant. I kept the foliage up. And so I've sheared the sages, the salvias, the euphorbias, the Jupiter's beard back, and I fertilized them with all-purpose plant food, which you should do everything in the yard by the end of the month. So we're getting down to the rains are coming. You want fertilizer over that rock lawn. You want fertilizer spread out underneath the trees. You want fertilizer out. You need organic food out there in the yard. So when it does rain, it activates and just starts to reinvigorate those plants. They are heat stressed. And so a little bit of care goes a long ways. And then the things that were in bloom, if you deadhead or pinch off or just shear back, the spent flowers, as soon as we get some rain, it will just go right back into bloom. I'm talking within 3 weeks, go right back into bloom. And you'll have another 2 months of flowers. It's amazing. You can trick plants. And what plants are doing, they've been blooming. And they're going, okay, there we go. My work is done here. I just want to relax and let the seed do their duty. And so they start to form seeds after the flower's pollinated. If you cut that flower off, it's going right back into grow mode. It's going, oh no, I can't reproduce. I'm heat stressed already. What's going on? I need to actually force more flowers, attract the pollinators, bring more butterflies and bees, help them out, help me out. And they start to bloom again because they're thinking, I want to reproduce out in the yard. Plants' way of making whoopee out in the yard is flowers. So if you do, and then it's that seed. If you cut those seeds off, it'll go right back into bloom. I would say over half or 2/3 of all flowers, perennials, will go right back into bloom. So Lisa and I were going on vacation here pretty quick. And so I wanted to, we're gone for a week or so, maybe a little longer. And, house sitters are taking a look, watching, staying at the house. And so I cut back the flowers just before I leave. And so they look kind of bad for a few days. Then they start to flush new growth, then set new flowers. And by the time I get back, they look like whole new plants. So you can time some of this stuff to your advantage out in the gardens. So my tomatoes, the vegetables in general. But tomatoes specifically, peppers are kind of sensitive. Actually, squash can be sensitive. They're stubborn to set those first fruits. So they've been actively growing. So your squash plant is 3 feet round, 3 feet tall. It's huge. It's a monster. We've harvested our first zucchinis, had them on the grill. Oh, they melt in your mouth. They were just so good. Our first tomatoes are all on. So they're your cherry tomatoes. They're actually starting to come off the vines. Your medium-sized fruits, so the celebrities, champions, early girls, the Romas, those are mid-sized fruits, not slicers, but close. They're getting heavy. They're heavily set. And the one that's stubborn are your big tomatoes, your big boys, uh, brandy wines. If it's a slicing, great, the tomato's going to be as big as your hand, your fist. Those can be stubborn. They're growing like crazy, and they get so invigorated by growth. They just go vine, vine, vine. It's hard to keep them in the cages, hard to keep them staked up. They're already 4 feet tall, and they're going to get 6 head high and higher. They're wanting to grow. They need that foliage to set the fruit, to have enough photosynthesis, enough foliage to create the sugars to make that fruit, and they know it. And so they don't set fruit until they've got enough. Well, what happens is they get growing like crazy. They actually forget to stop growing. And so my plants are now 4 feet tall. They are old enough, big enough, tall enough to start setting some fruit, dog on it. And you're going to do it in the Lain casa. We're going to have some big tomatoes, and I'm going to force you to do this. And here's what I'm doing. So if your tomatoes are not setting fruit as much as you want, or haven't set fruit quite yet, if you want more fruits, and this really goes for tomatoes, they're the kind of the tip of the spear, but this is good for all plants, all vegetables out in the yard. It works on all of them. I get a bottle of Blossom Set. And so I'm spritzing mine right now. I'm hitting them every week. I'm going, you are going to set fruit. That's it. And so we go out in the morning. It's cool. It's brisk. It just feels good. And I start spritzing the foliage with this Blossom Set, is what they call it. Usually it's called tomato and pepper blossom set. But really, you can just go vegetable, because it helps with cucumbers. It helps with squash. It helps with pumpkins. It helps them. And so what it does is your tomatoes are growing so fast, it causes them to slow down and take a breather. Hey, just why don't you rest for today? You grow, put on the full, you had a leg day yesterday, you got your arm days, and you need to rest. Let those muscles kind of build up and settle. It causes that plant to rest. And so peppers are notorious for not setting flowers. They want their plants, the foliage to be up tall enough, and they want it to be warm enough. So that's what peppers are thinking. Tomatoes just grow so fast, they forget to stop growing. And so Blossom Set helps them just kind of slow down and take it all in. And so then you'll see it goes, okay, it'll blossom more. My tomatillos, they're huge, and they're covered with flowers, but they're not quite setting fruits yet. They will, because I've started hitting them once a week with Blossom Set. Now, as soon as I start seeing I start seeing fruits on my plants, then I shift it. So my plants get Blossom Set year round, or while they're in the growth mode. During the growing season, I hit them at least once a week to every other week with Blossom Set. It just forces more fruits to show up. It forces bigger fruits. Once I start seeing fruit show up on my plant, I shift. I go from once a week to once every other week. And I'm spritzing once a week with something. So what I do is I'll inject an additional one. It's called Rot Stop, R-O-T Stop, Rot Stop. It's liquid calcium, basically. So I've got some peppers that are kind of stubborn. They're setting fruits, but they're kind of smaller. I hit them now. They're setting fruits. I hit them with Blossom Set one week. The next week I hit them in the morning with Rot Stop. And I just switch those two things off. 1 week this, Blossom Set, 1 week Rot Stop. I just shift them off. What liquid calcium does, or Rot Stop, it forces the fruits to be larger, thicker walled, juicier, sweeter. Actually, calcium brings out the flavor of plants. So you get more cucumbers, bigger eggplants. It's nothing but good. If in doubt, it can only help. It cannot hurt. And so whenever you're spraying anything, and it's this warm in the summer until the monsoons come, you want to be morning focused. It's good for you. It's cooler. It's better. It's less windy. The afternoon is windy. Oh my gosh. And it's hot. So if you're killing bugs with a neem oil or an organic or even a hardcore indoor outdoor spray, the ground is moving with grasshoppers. I want them gone. Indoor outdoor spray. We'll show you how to get them gone like now. They'll be quivering by the end of the day. We can show you, but spray in the morning. It's better for you. It's less windy. It's cooler. and it's more humid out in the gardens. The plants favor that. And so blossom set, rot stop. Where else did I go with pruning back plants? It's all going to benefit. Got a lot in store for you. Got Lisa Lain coming in with your garden questions right after this.
Waters Garden companion plants for June are moonshine yarrow, silverberry, Hall's honeysuckle, and sunburst locust.
Sunburst locust cheerfully shouts, "Hello, spring," with its glowing yellow leaves.
As summer heats up, it settles down to a naturally cool green, only to turn gold again in the autumn.
This Waters exclusive casts a dappled shade, perfect for reading books or sharing an outdoor meal, and impervious to deer.
You'll find the coolest trees here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain, owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join his daily podcast for timely garden advice seasonally right for the gardens. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott or through his website at top10gardener.com. You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lain and the Top 10 Gardener podcast. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show.
And we are back with Lisa Lain in the studio. She comes each week with garden questions coming in from around Arizona. Just you can learn something from your neighbors. So gardening is all about social, connecting, advice. So Lisa, welcome back to the Mountain Gardener.
Thank you.
Yeah,
good to be back.
Tag team, Mountain Gardeners. So Lisa's raised in the business. Kind of, you've done this for your entire life, all 30-something, 40-something, 50. Anyway, we've been married for 36 years. You can do a little bit of math there.
True.
Backtracking, 4 kids, all on their own, graduated, kind of having kids now. In fact, we just heard we've got a 4th on the way in November. We're very happy.
5th.
Oh, 5th. Yeah, sorry. I got that wrong. I'm such a man sometimes.
4 grandchildren. We're expecting a 5th grandchild.
Well, and when they're in the womb, it depends on how you read things. But that could be a 5th right now, huh?
True.
There we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, November, we'll be in Austin, Texas. No, in San Antonio. We have too many kids in Texas.
Well, that is true.
We'll see them all in Texas in November, just kind of helping with a new grandbaby.
Yeah.
So, but this is about
gardening.
Now. What are people asking or doing or saying?
Sure. So been a lot of watering questions, as you can imagine, because we kind of get into the heat of summer, and it's a challenge to figure those all out. But Lynn says she was in and she was told she was overwatering because she was getting leaf spot and black spot and powdery mildew. She said, I didn't think it was possible to overwater in the wintertime. But that's what's really causing the problems? What should I be watering? So many questions.
So watering, so it depends on what it is.
True.
So some things like daily watering. Your trees and shrubs and vines, they hate it. Your roses, they despise it. They'll wilt and wither and talk, and they'll talk back to you. Mm-hmm. And the way that plants talk back when they're overwatered is they'll get kind of wilty. They'll look like they are underwatered, and the leaves will start turning yellow. That's a secret. And then the insides, bottom leaves can sometimes get spotting, or you'll see yellowing with spots on it, or the tips will turn brown. These are all indications of, I can't breathe. I'm suffocating. The life is draining from my veins. Please stop watering. And so things that we've seen this week is lots of vines. So honeysuckle, things with dense foliage. See, plants have a way of protecting themselves. So they shade their own root structure. They actually will cool the temperature around their body. They have a way of changing their environment. And that's why we plant trees. That's why we plant shade trees, because trees are just a big glorified version of a honeysuckle that shades bigger areas of their surrounding to cool it down. So a tree can cool down their environment by 10 to 15 degrees. It's dramatic. I mean, it's not just the shade. They're physically changing. They're adding humidity. They're reflecting the sun. They're changing the wind. They're doing this knowing what they're doing. They're smart. Plants give them more credit. They know what they're doing. But what they need is to breathe at their roots. And so if you're watering every day your rose tree, your rose bush, your vines, your big shrubs, red tip photinia, they're going to tell you. and they're gonna cry out, going, "Please let me breathe at my roots." And so I would say right now, your trees and shrubs, give them a deep soak. Yeah, once a week. It's plenty. I know it's 95 and you are so hot, but they're not. They're basically hanging out. They're changing their environment. It's like you going out to your covered patio and you're just enjoying the shade, watching the sunset. That's what they're doing out in the yard in full sun. They're changing their environment so it's cooler for them. They're shading their roots so the roots don't get sunburned. And so they're changing their environment. So if you go out every day and water your rosemary, it's going to not be happy. So I say back off some. Now, that's just with your flowering, your container gardens, your hanging baskets, your tomato plants, different. These are short, shallow-rooted plants that are producing heavily right now. They're putting on tomatoes and cucumbers and pumpkins. They're actually producing stuff. So they're more sensitive. So they're probably, realistically, every day, every other day, somewhere in there is probably about right. Hanging baskets for sure. It's like 10% humidity with a breeze coming through. They're going to dry out daily. So they'll need more. So it just depends on what it is. But if you see yellow leaves, that's almost guaranteed it's overwatered right now. Now, if it's dry and crispy leaves on the ends, okay, at the top is burning back, okay, that's underwater. So what's happening now is you just have to be more exact on your watering, over and under. And so talk to your plants. Gardening is about communing with living, breathing, wild things that we've harvested out of the wilderness, brought into our backyards and tamed them. Now we're training them to adapt to your backyard. Help them. Talk to them. They're like puppy dogs. They're talking to you. You just got to know how to read plant. And if not, bring a sample in and we'll tell you how to read plant. We can show you how to, I've seen a lot of leaf disease. So spotting, some mildew, some white coating stuff on the tips of the leaves, on geraniums. And so those are all indications of, I'm saying, too wet. Another insider tip, probably the most important of all of them, and this is the curse of Phoenix and that whole desert thing. They're sending up bad information to us. Water in the evening. Plants will absorb more of this. Whatever you do up here, do not water in the evening unless you have to. So plants like to be dry going through the evening. Now, when it's 100 degrees at midnight down in Phoenix, okay, you can get away with that. Here, we're going to cool off in the 60s. It cools off. So the plants will actually take a breather and they're kind of going, oh, finally, it feels so cool. And they're going to take in some moisture then from when you watered in the morning. You really want to water plants during the cool of the morning. Hydrate them before the heat of the day, and they will do much better. So, Lynn, I hope that helps watering issues and everyone else.
True. And it's the other caveat I would throw out there is check your irrigation systems.
Yeah, that's true.
So you and I spent multiple hours,
2 weekends
checking our irrigation. And we found a lot of things, some that were gushers, some that there was no water coming out of, and we're like, oh yeah, that's why that plant was looking like that. So everybody says, oh, my system's fine. Actually go out and check your system and make sure it is running.
Yeah, we had several abandoned emitters that were still running, watering nothing. So that's just a waste. So we're growing weeds. That's not good. We had some that winter damage. It had cracked some of the main valves. So we ran it a couple times just to see if we could see where water spots were showing, or if we could hear the water running. And so then we find, okay, there's a coupler that's broken. Let's just change that. Change it out. No more leaks. So we're not growing weeds. And then we saw some stress in the backyard, not the front yard. The backyard, we got 4 valves in the back, 4 in the front. So we got everything micro irrigated exactly. 2 solenoids. That's that electric black knob at the top of your valve. That's what the clock activates on and off. Well, 2 were bad. So the clock was saying, you're fine. You're looking good. Your plants should be going great right now. It's talking to satellites. It's giving you weather insight. It's communing with your app. And it turns it on. But when the valve doesn't actually activate, that's an analog like roadblock. So your digital stuff's all going, yeah, all good. And then it doesn't activate the valve. Change those out. Boom. Started working right away. Plants look 100% better. And then we had a bad pressure reducing valve. So your drip irrigation, it runs not at house pressure. If you're running directly off a hose bib right in, 50, 60 pounds per square inch into micro irrigation, it's going to blow heads off. It's not going to be true to its It's emitter head. You need to reduce that pressure typically to 20 to 30 pounds per square inch. So you're cutting that in half, and then everything flows correctly. Well, we had a bad one. It was leaking, causing issues, and the that valve, the tree and shrub valve in the backyard, was just not accurate. We're going, what is going on with these plants? We changed it out a couple of weeks ago, and the catalpas are blooming better than ever. I mean, things are just going crazy because they're getting the accurate water.
Right.
The clock said I was right. The system proved the plants told us
You were
the
wrong.
clock is not right. And so we went out and adjusted. And I think it takes a tag team. So
Yeah.
my hearing's not the greatest. Lisa's is
What?
awesome. I'm not a detail person. I'm more like, it's Lisa's detail. She was out there walking around going, I think I found another one. I'm going, okay, I'm bringing my little irrigation box over and changing things out. And it took a little bit.
Mhm.
We got it together. Thanks for the help, babe.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without you. Okay, so couple questions, one question and a couple comments, and we're out of time. Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.
Plants are a lot like puppies. They need care, water, and food.
You wouldn't forget to feed your puppies, so don't forget to feed your plants.
Water's 744 all-purpose plant food is a gourmet meal for your plants.
The only food for Arizona plants with the nutrients they need for big blooms, a hefty harvest, and tremendous trees, all naturally.
It's time to feed your plants with 744 all-purpose plant food from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
You're listening to Ken Lain, aka the Top 10 Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Family Garden Center. Listen daily as he answers the top 10 questions of the week, streaming on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Garden Show with garden expert Ken Lain. Join the conversation daily as he answers timely garden questions. Email Ken a question directly from your phone to his desktop through the web at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Or visit face-to-face throughout the week where he can be found at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
There is nothing in the mountains of Arizona that is more beautiful than a rose. And a rose is so intimidating to most people. But at this higher elevation, where brighter light, drier climate, this is where roses thrive. I mean, they just are spectacular. You won't find more beautiful roses anywhere in the country than here. And yet most folks are going, oh no, I tried that in California. I tried that over in the South. I tried that in the Midwest. I'd insulate them every winter. No, we don't do any of that. It's so easy. We don't get black spot. I think I've seen black spot in my 32 years of doing this twice. We just don't have that. That's more humid climate stuff. There's a few bugs, but those are easy to solve because you just have to fertilize them early on and know what to spray. That's just prune them in March, fertilize them with rose food with systemic. You won't have bugs. You'll have beautiful blossoms. It's that easy. If you start to see curled leaves, spray them with an organic. That'll wipe out that thrip right away. Aphids are so easy to spot, easy to kill. That's not even an issue. And so it's easy. What people get confused with is, when do I prune them? What time? And then the book says I do an internet search, the Google machine says, prune back when done blooming, count back 3 nodes and cut it at a 45-degree angle. And it's like, what? No. There's some plants you need to do that with. So your grandparents grew those kinds of roses. Anymore, we're shifting away from that to much easier care. I've got a whole series called Easy Elegance because they are elegant and very easy to grow. These are shrub roses. They're grown on their own rootstock. So your grandparents grew a fancy, aggressive root, and then they grafted on this specialty rose, and that's how they got this great big long stem, Mr. Lincoln, your fragrant cloud, Henry Fonda. These are all Barbara Streisand, beautiful purple. This is where they had this big, bold, they had a root, they grafted on this special color onto the root. You get these roses on steroids. Anymore, we figured out how to skip that whole, we don't need to graft. We can simply root out the plant itself directly in the soil. And so now we get a rose that's much more hardy. It's not dependent on its host rootstock. It's doing its own thing. And we pick the hardiest of all of the roses. We go, hey, we'll grow that red one. We'll grow that pink one. We'll grow that yellow one, white, whatever color. And we're getting better and better at this. So we used to be, we'd have basically it was pink. That's what introduced it all. And now we've got every color you could think of. And we're starting to get larger and larger, easy, elegant, or shrub roses. And they're becoming fragrant. We figured out how to add fragrance to the plants. And now the beauty with shrub roses, or this series, the new series of roses is when it's done blooming, it prunes itself. It doesn't need you. There's no more reading the Google machine and going, counting back 3 nodes. What the heck is a node? What are we talking about? How many leaves? Where do I go? It just goes, it does it itself and sets another flower all by itself. And so it's getting so easy. The new varieties, we're going, okay, we'll put 1,000 of them out in a field, different varieties. We'll go, which ones get the aphids? Don't plant those. Which ones are like problem free? Let's go after those, take a cutting and grow them out. So we're actually experimenting. We've got test gardens, basically, where we test to see which ones are the hardiest of the hardy roses. And so we've got a whole series, and now's the time. This is when your best rose selection is at garden centers. And we're not talking this bare root stuff you had back in February and March. Man, some of those have failed. I'd say over half of those have died by now. And you're going, what did I do? It's my fault. It is not your fault. You were sold a bad product for the wrong climate. We don't do bare root very well here. It's more of a more humid area climate. You actually need plants that are fully rooted. They've got the whole root structure. If you did that, you'd have great success. So when you bare roots, it's just a dismal failure. In fact, we stopped selling them here at Waters because our plants, we're noted as a place where our plants live. And I'm not going to sell something that I guaranteed 40, 50% of customers, they're going to die no matter what they do. No, we want success. So we rooted out our bare root last year, and now we've brought them in this year. So you're seeing brand new, fully rooted, fully formed, fully in bloom roses available at the garden center for planting now. This is when roses look their best. So that second flush of blooms are always spectacular. And then the third flush towards the fall is even better. It's like first blush is good. You see, we only sell ever blooming roses. So they flush out with blooms, cut them back, and they self-prune, and they reset, and then they do it again. And they have this flushing waves of flowers. That's the kind of rose you want in your yard. Otherwise, it'll bloom once, and then you're going, where did it go? What did I do wrong? It wasn't you. You were sold a rose that wasn't a repeat bloomer. Those roses they deserve to be dug out of your yard and thrown in the trash because they're not worthy. They're old school. Those are from 20, 30, 50 years ago. The new varieties are so easy to grow. They don't get the mildews and the bugs, and they repeat bloom. You don't have to be fancy with how to prune them. Yeah, we prune back all roses in March. Then we fertilize them with the rose who is systemic. And that's it. That's all you should have to do. The rest of the time, it should go by itself. Anyway, roses. There's so many new varieties out. But look at that Easy Elegant series, or the Grace and Grits. That's another one. Great new variety. There's new varieties out that'll make you like a rock star of rosarians out in your yard. Be right back with more garden tips, tricks, and advice after this.
Waters Garden companion plants for June are golden locust, moonshine yarrow, Hall's honeysuckle, and gilt edge silverberry.
Gilded Edge Silverberry grows head high with bright gold and blue leaves that screens out the most obnoxious neighbors while standing up to blistering heat and wind.
The super sweet flowers are utterly animal proof. Even javelina and deer don't like the taste of this local shrub.
You'll find the best evergreen natives at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
The Top 10 Gardener, your source for timely garden advice seasonally correct for the garden, guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
And we are back in the studio with Lisa Waters Lain. She comes each week and just shares her garden insider tips. What's going on in her gardens, or what has she seen in the neighborhoods? Just what's the highlight through her eyes of gardening in the central area of Arizona, Central Highlands of Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So it is different up here. Welcome, Lisa.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we've got, this is high desert.
Yes.
It is, so as soon as you come up the hill from Black Canyon City, you go through all that chaos of I-17, you get up the hill and all of a sudden it cools down.
Mm-hmm.
Plants change, the swallows disappear, and you are in the mountain gardening area. So
that is true.
That's what we're talking about. Central, that's Sedona, Camp Verde, Cottonwood, Prescott Valley, Mayer, you all the way over to Paulden and Chino Valley, down over the hill towards Skull Valley, Hillside, Kirkland. These are all the same. We're all but I'm different. I'm special because I'm in Prescott Valley. Well, I got news for you, Prescott Valley. You're not as special as you think you are. You might just be the same as the rest of us, at least in the gardens. Mm-hmm. So we grow the same stuff. Soils change and the sun direction. So what side of the hill you're viewing change. Right. So soil density, so you got clays and caliche, you got sandy. As you get towards Granite Mountain, you got more sandy, granite-y kind of soil. So many times we'll ask you, where do you live? We're not asking you because we care. We're asking, we're trying to figure out what kind of soil you're dealing with. Yeah. Because we've dealt with thousands of other gardeners. We can help hone you in. When you show us a picture, I don't really care about your backyard fence. I mean, I've seen hundreds. I'm looking at what other plants are growing there so I can companion plant. We're looking at how much sun is showing up on that fence line. Where are the shadows? We're looking at the nuance of that so we can get the right plant and so we can companion plant those things so you'll have more success. We're trying to give you advice. Mm-hmm. Now, Doc, my chest hurts. Why? Well, I'm not quite sure. Let's take a look at this. And there's probably dozens of reasons. The same in your backyard. There's dozens of plants that could fit and not fit. So we're trying to get you where you don't make as many mistakes. Anyway, I go on and on.
Yes, you
Lisa.
do.
2 minutes in.
2.5 minutes in.
It's
and
all
this
you.
is my segment.
Yeah. Oh, how's that for an intro?
I would also say included in that is also microenvironments. Oh, yeah. I mean, in one yard, you could have 4 or 5 different microenvironments. So yeah, it does matter where the sun hits and yada, yada, yada. But that's where professionals can help you.
Well, we is professionals, that's for sure.
So right now we're seeing all the summer shrubs and flowers blooming, and it's pretty. Yeah. You definitely, we're past that spring. The lilacs are done. The forsythia is done. That spring stuff. And now we're into the summer color, which is actually quite pretty. And there's a lot of shrubs that do very well here. If you're looking for summer color to mix into your yard. The one that I really, really like is the Rose of Sharon or hibiscus in the hibiscus family. Now it's not the great big monster hibiscus you see in Hawaii, but it's a beautiful shrub. Most of them are going to get 6 to 8 feet kind of in there. And they're going to bloom with beautiful, long-lasting flowers, and it'll just be full. There's double ones, like this is those of us who can see
on the camera. There's one that's really fluffy, and there's one that's more hibiscus-y.
The lavender chiffon is a double one, so it almost has more of almost a peony or rose look to it because it has that full look. The other one is more of a traditional hibiscus look, simple. This one's kind of a dark pink with a red center. Now there's many colors, lavender, white, pinks, dark purples, you name it. There's lots of colors in the hibiscus family. Nice little shrub for here, goes dormant in the wintertime, but takes our cold weather just fine. Comes back in the spring, leaves back out and blooms, midsummer, pretty much through the end of summer.
Autumn,
yeah. So nice shrub for here. People should definitely have one in their yard. Does very well.
At least one, maybe
at least
2 or
one.
3.
The other one I didn't bring a blossom in, but that also is a great continual bloomer through the summer, is a butterfly bush.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are used to seeing those, but they've actually come out with quite a few varieties now. So we're kind of used to that 6 to 8 foot tall, gets rangy, takes over your yard. Well, they've come in with many that are much more behaved. So they get 4x4, 5x5, and even some that are like 2x2, the little
Some ground cover,
Pugster
yeah.
series. So, but they're nice that they don't have a little tiny blossom. They still have that real big blossom on them. So you get a huge show of color. You do have to deadhead them to keep them and fertilize them to keep them blooming. But what a wonderful shrub. And butterflies do like it.
Is that a butterfly bush?
It's
Oh,
not.
you're just talking about. You brought a chase tree, which looks just like
It
it. I'm going to
does.
show off the folks on the camera.
But with butterfly bush, the butterflies really do love them. So you're helping with that. So this one I brought in is a chase tree. So it gets 12 to 15 feet tall.
Yeah.
It has a bloom very, very similar to a butterfly bush, but it just gets bigger. It gets fuller. It has a purple, almost lilac type bloom to it. Very, very pretty. It's another long blooming tree out there.
Butterflies think they've gotten to heaven. You'll have lots of butterflies in this plant.
Just pollinators in general.
Yeah.
It is a great pollinator plant out there. And very drought hardy.
Super
animal
dry.
resistant.
Yeah.
Your deer aren't going to be chomping on it.
Guaranteed. We got several personal experience. Deer in javelina, do not bother. Chase tree. It's a great one.
Yeah. Another one along with that is the desert willow.
Yeah, that's right.
Which are definitely starting to bloom around town right now. I get about the same height.
Yeah.
I like the ones that don't produce the pods. So Timeless Beauty, Bubba, those are Sweet Katie. So they're not producing pods, so they bloom a lot longer. Yeah. And hummingbirds love those.
There are plants that are, all plants are not the same. So so red tip photinia. Out of all the red tip photinia, there's some that are more disease resistant. They actually are fuller. They have better reds. There's actually different grades. Roses, there are some that are some that get disease that animals just eat like crazy. There's some that take the sun better. And chase tree, there's some plants that grow better. Desert willow, there's some that are actually preferred where, for my friends, I want to guide you into what's better in your yard that you're going to enjoy more for many years to come. Mm-hmm. Yes, it might have a patent on it. You might have to pay a few bucks more, but you will be so much more delight in your backyard just by planting for years to come. You will be happier because it blooms easier without any care, without the disease, without the problems that some things. Anyway,
right. Definitely
we
worth
go
it.
on and on.
Yes.
Yeah.
We go on and on. Other things blooming right now are the crepe myrtles.
Oh, yeah.
Those are they're again 6-ish. They're coming up with new ones that stay smaller now, which is nice. But beautiful bright color, usually pinks and purples and whites and lavenders, and the colors are just very dynamic out the yard, especially when that's very pretty, honey. Especially when you're in the heat of summer and you're kind of like to look out and see those crepe myrtles just shining out there is amazing. So definitely check out the crepe myrtles. So the other one that I brought in, so this is Caryopteris, sometimes called bluebeard or blue mist. This is a shrub, probably 4x4. Another really drought hardy, animal resistant, and when it blooms, it is the whole shrub is crazy. In bloom.
It's freakish.
Great pollinator plant, just really pretty. Nice one for your yard, mixes well in with your crepe myrtles and your butterfly bush and things like that. So,
summer lover, just loves the heat.
So this one I brought in is a gardenia. The gardenias So the ones we have at the garden center right now are just in full bloom. And I just like to go walk over there because it smells so good. And I love gardenias. So yeah, you can just come in and just smell the gardenia. Bring your coffee,
that one iced tea. And the Daphne, where they're kind of side by side.
Yeah.
You're wondering, where's that smell coming from? It's from both of them.
Right.
So Daphne and gardenias are some of the strongest fragrant plants. In the
a little bit more of a shade plant, but they do nicely here. And then I brought in just a couple of real quick annuals. So annuals, one season, one and done, but they just bloom their little hearts out for that. Great for containers. This one's a penta. This is a great butterfly attractor. Excellent, excellent. And then, of course, lantana. Who doesn't love the heat more than a
I
lantana?
know, it's
I don't
crazy.
know,
Yeah.
but look at the color, pinks and yellows, and just do wonderful in containers and brighten those pots.
We have both. We've got up at elevation, we've got all the lantanas are perennial down in
Oh, you
down in
lost your
Phoenix.
flower.
Down up here, only a few. So we've got the
Yeah.
perennial varieties. They come back every year, and we've got these fancy, bright colored ones. We got both, and we got them separated so we can help you grow them better, stronger. Anyway, Lisa, thank you for the summer flowers that'll just shine in your yard. Be right back after this.
Water's Garden companion plants for June are golden locust, silverberry, Hall's honeysuckle, and moonshine yarrow.
Moonshine yarrow is a fuss-free, heat-loving perennial with large clusters of canary yellow flowers held above a ferny foliage. It's just stunning.
Mountain tough, you can't kill this perennial that only blooms better year after year.
Javelina and rabbit detest the summer blooms.
You'll find moonshine yarrow for a limited time at Water's Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott. You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain, owner of Water's Garden Center in Prescott. Look for more tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts through Ken's website. Additional shows of this podcast, read his weekly garden column, or follow him on Facebook, Instagram at watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show with Ken Lain. Listen to Ken's tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts guaranteed to make your gardens more beautiful than ever this year. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
So every week I write a garden column and the newspaper picks it up, the digital newspaper. It's pretty famous throughout Arizona. It's called The Mountain Gardener. I do a radio show, of course, you're tuned in, the podcast. But mainly the insider scoop is those folks that really want to belong, want to know what's really going on. That garden column I write, I give it to the newspapers and they mute it down. I put backlinks where to go get more, where to buy online, where to get more. If you like this, here's some more information. You can expand that knowledge if you want. You can go down the rabbit hole wherever far you want. But a newspaper, they just want black and white. They don't want embedded links. Even on their digital copy, they don't do that. And so they dumb it down and they even change the photo. They get the photo wrong sometimes. I'll give them a photo. Here's a desert willow in full bloom, and here's a write-up on where it grows and how to grow it best. And then they'll change it, put a chase tree or some other crazy thing. Anyway, bothers me, but I'm not in control. My editor is. Thank you very much. Been doing that for years, and that's generally they're pretty good. So I keep doing it. But mainly the reason I'm writing that column is for you, my customers, my core folks, the folks that come shop here at Waters Garden Center. We ask you if you want to belong, or if you're part of, we don't ask you if you want. We go, are you part of the garden club? Let's make sure you're in. And then I write the column on Mondays. I put it through my personal editors, and then they clean it up, add a few pictures, that kind of stuff, and they send it out the following Friday or Saturday. And so every week I've been doing that for 20 years. And so it's if that's of interest, sign up or ask next time you're in, say, hey, Ken said I should belong to the garden club. I don't get his newsletter. Where is that? And so ask for it. It is not something regurgitated from Google. Google will dumb you up. They'll confuse you. You don't know which one to go with. AI is helping a little bit, but even then you get some harebrained suggestions. This is from my gardens to my desktop to your email, just like that. And so or I guess you can go online anymore. You got a blog. So we store everything on watersgardencenter.com under blog, like everyone else. There's now over 30,000 pages. I should make a book out of this, but right now I got a report going, you're over 30,000 pages on your website because you've been writing so many columns for so many years that it just adds up. What is that? 10 years worth of stuff? That's crazy. No, more than that. That's videos and everything else. Okay. The number one thing that people ask about or confused about, or I'm trying to simplify, are the trees. Which trees are best? So right now there's a wave of customers coming in. I just helped the Lions Club. They were going, okay, we're supporting first responders and teachers. We're putting up 6 houses for them. We're reducing the income or the subsidizing the rent because this is valuable. I love the heart of Lions. You guys are awesome. You're making it, you guys and gals. I know that gals don't email me going, hey, women are part of this too. I know, my bad. I'm so old. So you guys and gals, lions, roar, are making a difference. And so I'll help you. You buy a tree, we'll donate a tree, 50-50. We'll just make this thing happen because this is important. And so they've got tiny yards, but they want a tree in front of each yard that will help shade. And they're all in a row. And okay, this could be tricky. What do we do? But why not make them look like gingerbread or cookie cutter, or just kind of what's a theme throughout that subdivision? And we chose aspens. We're thinking of multi-stemmed aspen because it's very tight. They can't spread out much. You can't put a sycamore out there and just be solid canopy. You wouldn't see the houses. The canopy would be so huge. And so we chose aspens. So now they can get up, 30, 50 feet tall. They'll be, 15 feet wide. And if you get 6 of them in a row, you've got some serious shade. And they're beautiful. They've got that nice trembling leaf in the growing season. They got beautiful aspen gold color in the fall, and they get that white bark in the summer. It's a great tree for a patio. If you got a back, or I use it on the west wall of my house. I need some shade. But those property lines, that's where my west side's on the property line. I can't bleed out into my neighbors and irritate them. I'm trying to keep it on my side as best I can. We're cordial. You're cordial because, you appreciate each other's space. And so I grew aspens in a row, 3 of them. And it shades that west side that just roasts the master bedroom, the master bath, the guest bath, and 2 guest rooms. It just roasts them. Well, now it's cooler. Reduces my air conditioning bill. It actually shades my AC unit, that outdoor compressor. If you can shade that, you'll reduce your electricity bill by 20% just by shading that condenser instead of having it out there in full sun. Some simple things, trees make a difference. And so birch would be another good choice for that shaded. I want a smaller tree that's not as aggressive as maybe a cottonwood or a willow, but I want it to grow fast and be tight, be tall, but not so sprawling. Great choice. I'd say number 1 seller by far, no questions asked, maples. And not just any maple. This is one where there's probably 100 or more varieties of maples. At this elevation, you want a certain variety because we get so much wind early on when those leaves are just forming. We get a lot of leaf tatter. You folks in the Midwest, you love your Acer rebrums or red maples. Well, that grows here, and you'll see it at the box stores or you see it around, but I'm not going to sell it because it looks so beat up and tattered that it's just not a good tree for here. Yeah, once it's mature and big, it's great, but the first 10 years, it looks terrible. There's so many better choices. Let me help you. So I created a Prescott Blaze maple. It looks very similar to the red maple you folks in the Midwest are used to, but it grows faster. It's the first tree to turn bright red. I mean, we're talking serious, like intense red color, like you want from the Midwest. It's that. Now it gets a bad rap. If you do your internet search, it says, oh no, don't plant this when the ice storms will take it out. Well, we don't get ice storms here. Oh, it's got a certain locust that comes out every 7 years and strips it. Well, we don't have those here. We're not in the Midwest anymore. It's a great tree where it's drier, windier. It doesn't get ice storms. It's probably the preferred one. And so it's a beautiful tree up to about 35 feet tall, 15, 20 feet wide. It's like the perfect shade tree. It's not aggressive with the roots, doesn't lift up your foundation. When you put a cottonwood out there, it'll lift the house off the foundations. It's so aggressive. You have huge roots. So you got to be careful. Another name for that tree is widowmaker. Because in a windstorm, as it gets larger, the branches break off in the wind and they can kill you if you're walking underneath it. Personal experience, not that I died, but I just walked underneath a very large, we raised our family in Skull Valley. Skull Valley is famous for their ginormous cottonwoods. The cottonwoods are growing right into the water table. They're amazing, magnificent. What I learned, don't walk underneath them when it's windy out, because I just walked underneath down the driveway. And just right after I walked out, I'm like you just walked back there, this huge limb just crashing down right where I was. And it would have not been pretty. So I just respect things. So bigger the trees, the softer the branches. I'd say willows can do that. They're always dropping things. So I would say I'm not a fan. I do sell a lot of them. I've got both globe willow and weeping willows, but I think there might be better choices, definitely better choices. Sycamores, very popular. Lots of subdivisions have sycamores. Has a maple leaf. It's a fast-growing, sturdy, strong tree. Has interesting bark to it. The only negative I find with that one, I wouldn't plant it in my yard. I do sell a lot of them. I think the maple's better, but the sycamores they grow fast and you can buy them affordably. So that's why they're in subdivision. I need 100 of them for my subdivision. Boom, they put them in and they save $10 a tree. But they don't have good fall color. They get this little ball on them, this little star-shaped ball about the size of a golf ball that hang on the tree forever. And then they pollute and they just drop things continually. So they don't drop their leaves in fall all at once. They do it over a 3-month span through winter. Well, I want fall color, and then I want you to drop all your leaves. Then I want to rake them up, and I want to call it all good. I don't want to be raking up your leaves for the next 3 months. That just work. So there's better choices. I would say ash trees, great choice. There's the native ash, Arizona ash, Modesto ash, a native one from New Mexico and California. You got the the Raywood ash, beautiful purple. Golden locust, great locust tree. A purple robe locust. There's so many choices. That's one you want to come in and kind of walk down the lines and hand pick the tree that's best for your yard. Go native with Water's locally grown selection of overachievers.
Water's hand-selected native plants and cactus are famous for continual blooms, natural beauty, and low care.
You can do this. A stunning backyard with less water and even less work. And Water's can help.
Go native with Water's selection of overachieving native plants from Water's Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott.
Shop Water's native plants in store or online at watersgardencenter.com.
You're listening to garden expert Ken Lain. He can be found throughout the week at Water's Garden Center in Prescott. Thanks for tuning in to the Top 10 Garden Show. You've tuned in to the Top 10 Gardener with garden expert Ken Lain. Join him daily as he answers timely garden questions that are sure to make a difference in your gardens. Now welcome your host, Ken Lain.
I had mentioned I was deadheading or pruning back or pinching the spent flowers on my geraniums, petunias, Jupiter's beard, meadow sage, things that are, and when they get done blooming, prune them back. But mostly, for no matter if you have flowers or not, the most important feeding of summer is coming up. It's like right now, it's like critical. And so all that food you put down last spring, back in March, February, it's gone. I mean, you've been watering more often. You've been watering to keep things alive, and things can get stressed. They get heat stress. They get hot like you do. And so they're kind of waiting for the summer rains to happen. Monsoons happen usually the first part of July. You never know how much rain we're going to get, but we do get cloud cover. The humidity does go up. You will get some rain. It's actually, there's a spike in moisture between July and August, first part of September. So this is a growing season. It's a second growing season. So spring, they flushed out with new growth. Now they're just hanging on. And then the rains come and it flushes a whole other set of growth. This is extremely important for you folks with brand new, immature landscapes. You need to fertilize before July 4th. I can't emphasize that enough. Take advantage. You want to put a good granular organic food down over top of your rock, underneath your trees, around your shrubs, against those privacy screens, up against those red tip photinia. You want to put a granular food down on top of the rock. Don't work it in. Don't make this laborious. Just get it down. As the rains come, it will release over a slow period of time. And so I'm not a big fan of synthetics. Stay away from those petroleum-based products. You don't need a turf builder, Scott's, whatever out there. It just burns up the roots, sterilizes the soil and kills off your worms. That's not what your plants need. In summer, they need an organic food. And so I'm a big organic gardener. I go organic whenever possible because we can do this. It takes some more garden finesse, some more strategy. It takes some more knowledge. But if you got the right friends that have a garden center here in Prescott, Arizona, we can help you. tune in. We can make this thing happen. And so we make a 744 all-purpose plant food. It's granular. It's 20-pound sack. Will go about 2,000 square feet. That helps you coordinate that you engineers. You're going, oh, I'm all over this. Oh yeah, I could calculate this. I'll need 3 bags. So, or we can help you figure that out. So my yard, it took 4 bags. I've got a ½ acre, and it is a very intense. I mean, there's a lot of plants because I like plants. It brings me joy. I want my water bill to go up in June because it brings me joy. I like to water. I love the feel of plants. This morning I was reading the paper while watching hummingbirds use my fountain to bathe and I mean, it's joy. That just brings me something. I don't want to go crazy. I don't have lawns, but I am going to cycle it up a little bit more so I have a beautiful yard. And so, but your yard, no matter what, all of us have 2 shrubs, a tree, and a boulder. Those plants need some food. It's going to keep them healthy. If your plants are stressed, you'll want to fertilize now, and you'll get brand new plants coming out. If they're stressed, they got some leaf tatter, some damage. I would say 2 things: put the all-purpose plant food down, and we have a product here at the Garden Center called humic. It's humic acid. It helps plants root out deeper, stronger, better. Those 2 things are the bit of advice I can leave the show with that are so critical, so important that you really do. You need to get it down. You should feel some pressure. Fertilize everything in the yard, trees, shrubs, flowers, roses, by the end of the month, by the first part of July, and then pray for rain. Actually, that'll almost ensure rain's coming. That's it for this week's show. Throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. We love talking to fans of the show.
Plants are a lot like puppies. They need care, water, and food.
You wouldn't forget to feed your puppies, so don't forget to feed your plants.
Water's 744 all-purpose plant food is a gourmet meal for your plants.
The only food for Arizona plants with the nutrients they need for big blooms, a hefty harvest, and tremendous trees, all naturally.
It's time to feed your plants with 744 all-purpose plant food from Waters Garden Center in Prescott.
If you want a more fruitful garden, increased success, and landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Top 10 Garden Podcast. Years of tips, tricks, and garden shortcuts are guaranteed to make your gardens nicer than ever. Listen to this podcast or read Ken's weekly garden column by visiting watersgardencenter.com. That's Waters with 2 T's, gardencenter.com. Thanks for tuning in.